It's magic. I'm a creator, a multi-dimensional, immortal creator. And I came here for a specific mission and reason to be in time because we can do certain things here we can't do without time and without our limits of the human body. And like great sex.
Hi, I'm Mark Mueller. This is Truth and Justice League podcast, and this is my guest, River Giuliano.
Hi, Mark. Well, hello, darling.
And I can't believe I haven't met you.
I'm shocked also.
Hey, we just spent an hour walking around the downtown property, kind of getting to know each other and seeing the buildings. You've been downtown Austin for decades.
I think it's almost 40 years.
And I've been here 30-something years.
Yeah. And we've been neighbors.
We've been neighbors, and we, as far as I know, never met.
Correct. I think we've never been in the same room
and
that
it's
I
wild,
know of.
Because you were in law, and you were involved in all kinds of lobbyist activity and courtroom activity. And then at some point, you changed careers completely. And I became aware of you in the health movement and the metaphysical personal growth space. And I went, wow, that's an interesting person to go from this career to that career. So thank you for coming.
Certainly my pleasure. It's an honor to be with you.
So what are we here to do?
I'm so happy you asked that. You know, I am very excited about where humanity is right now, Mark. The earth is changing really fast. And humanity's changing really fast, and we have an opportunity to be with that change right now. It's never been like this before. My understanding is that our solar system is entering the photon belt of the galaxy. You know how the Milky Way galaxy has these arms coming out, and we're moving into an arm. So we're having different kinds of light come in. And I think it's really the perfect time for everyone to wake up to the fact that we are here on Earth to be immortal creators of the universe we live in, and that we are not here to listen to what other people have to say that we should do. That's a pretty big statement in today's world, isn't it?
That is a big statement. One of the things I know that you work with, and I know it myself because I feel it myself sometimes, pretty much a lot, is fear. And I make reference to it in my own way by calling it my inner chihuahua. And I want to talk to you about how do we as humans reach our highest potential? How do we manifest what we want? How do we create the world we want?
Well, that's a small question too.
Yeah.
Well, fear's the mind killer. They say that in Dune. I love that. I really believe that all fear is a human-created illusion, that it's just our imagination only. All pain and suffering is self-inflicted. So if we can understand that about ourselves and we can really learn that what our true power is as humans, we don't have to be ruled by that fear. And you're saying how to do that. I think one of the biggest differences in people right now is some people have decided that they're going to work with their shit. And other people are not interested in doing that. And that's actually becoming a very big split right now in humanity, in my opinion. I think there are lots of ways now and lots of guides and lots of leaders and lots of materials and ability for us to work with our stuff. So every time that I have felt blocked, and I know that inside me there's something bigger, something more powerful, I've done a lot of work on that. I've spent a lot of time working on that with all kinds of different teachers and healers and methods and modalities. And I believe that every single human, if you feel like I have an obstacle that's holding me back right now, and I want to work on it, I think if we say, I want to work on it, then in front of us will appear the next thing we get to do to work on it. It will be like a tool or a helper or a teacher will appear right there and be like, then work on it now with me.
Have you witnessed people coming into their power and doing things they would not have imagined being able to do?
Oh, I've seen hundreds of people do that. And that's what lights me up the most, other than my own personal sex life. Is what lights me up the most of everything is my own personal adventures. If you take those to the side, what lights me up the most is watching another person shed those layers and shine so bright. And I've had clients and workshop participants, their posture changes. The glimmer in their eye changes. The way they speak changes. The way they hold themselves. Of course, their careers open up. They maybe are an inventor and they invent a brand new thing that's worth $1 billion. I have a client right now who is 80, and he was meditating for 3 days on his 80th birthday and figured out, I need to change everything. Changed everything. I met him about a year later after he had visited about 5 or 6 Tantric priestesses. And then he came through my workshop and he is on fire. He's found his soul's mission, his entire galactic mission. And he's writing books and he's having the most beautiful, exciting time of his life. He's met his soulmate, who's also in her 80s.
Wow.
And she was already an Akashic record reader and a medium, and they're both just flying in multidimensional paradise. And they're like, I think we have the most beautiful love affair of all of history. And I'm like, I think so too. I can't say anything about this. It's absolutely stunning because we are here to create anything that we dream from a really beautiful dream. I now teach about sexuality. Mm-hmm. Because I believe that as human beings, we were granted a really big, potent power. That's our sexual energy. That's, to me, the most potent power the human body has, sexual energy. So to cultivate that energy and bring it online, to me, it's a very important part of optimizing our being. You know what I mean? So if I want to become a fully whole human, fully authentic, well, if my sexuality is not authentic, I'm not fully authentic. That's the truth of it. So I just like to work with people straight in the hottest spot we have, which is sexuality. And so where we start in the sexuality journey is to ground the body. And I have to bring my nervous system into relaxed nervous system position first before I can learn, before I can grow, before I can create. So I start by finding my grounded, deepest self, my relaxed nervous system. And in that place, it's a little more still. And the logical thinking mind is a lot more quiet. It's actually not going in that space. And I need to find that space. And from that space, I can dream. I can dream a new dream no one's ever had before. And to me, that's the most beautiful thing we have. And from that dream, then there's a process of creating reality of that dream. And I can tell you, every dream, I've been doing dreaming practice and sexuality practice now for 20 years. And every dream I've had has come true. Wow. And some people see me and they're like, really? And that's all you've got? I'm like, yeah, but that's as big as my dream has gotten so far.
Wow.
But it's all there. And I'm very busy, of course. What happens when we get all the things we've ever dreamed of? Next dream, you know? So I'm definitely involved in creating new dreams for myself so I can make more dreams come true. And I think being here on this podcast with you and meeting you is part of my dream.
It is now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Talk to me about the nervous system stuff, because I think we're coming out of a period. You and I just talked about this briefly about people constantly being bombarded, either primarily or secondarily, with media stuff that's just a lot of fear and drama and scary stuff, and it's nonstop.
Really, the way I envision, and I don't expect anybody to believe me or agree with me. I just want to make that clear. There's a phrase called New Earth. And I think what it means is the Earth is like this. It's like these if you imagine, I don't know if everyone's going to be seeing us, if some people just hear us, imagine that there are 2 circles drawn on a piece of paper, and the circles are right on top of one another. So that's our current understanding of Earth, that we live on one concrete sort of sphere, material world. But of course, Gaia is so much more than a material object, our Mother Earth. And so what's happening now is that because of the photon belt, is that slowly, very gradually and slowly, the two Earths are shifting and separating. So if you imagine those two circles on a piece of paper, now they start to separate from each other, and very, very slowly. So now you can see there are two circles, and they're slowly moving, and they're going to become completely separate circles or spheres. And one circle or one sphere of Earth is all the fear and all of the limited ideas of who we are, and that we live in time, and that we're small and we're insignificant. That's an Earth and a world that is starting to separate. But the other side is all of us who know we're immortal creators, and that we are infinite light beings having a very temporary experience, and we're keeping our eyes on the light and the love. And there's basically, the easiest way I could describe these two worlds is the world of love and light is really about love and acceptance. And the other world that's shifting is about possession and control. So every time I'm walking through life and I hear anything or I see anything happening, I ask myself, is that about possession and control, or is that about love and acceptance? And if I can find the love and acceptance side of that and stay on that, I'm in this world, the light. And they are separating. So I truly believe that over the next few years, I think about the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to become more dramatic, this difference. And there will be a lot of people who feel like it's just getting worse. And for them, it will be. And then there are going to be a large group of people, of which there are millions of us already, who know that this is just getting better, and it's just becoming more magical, and we are just receiving more powers as humans. We're stepping into an era where we can access the light and the love and the acceptance, and we can step into what have formerly been seen as magic powers. We actually have them now.
I read something similar to this recently. It was an old book from like the early 90s. It was the Bringers of the Dawn.
Beautiful book.
Yeah.
From the Pleiadians.
Yeah, it was written like in the early 90s. So we're in different. So trying to figure out what they were saying then and what has happened already versus what is still going to be happening, because time is also kind of it's not quite the way we think of it. And so it's not like a precise prediction to the second of something, even in the linear time.
Yeah.
But that was talking about the development of a sort of a new world too, where things were disappearing from this world, this place, but they're not disappearing from everything. They're in this other space, and they will be part of that other space. I don't know how to verify that or
verify. That's hilarious.
Verify that as a lawyer. I want to see an expert witness defend this one, right?
I know.
So, do you know Zach Bush?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I've met him.
Okay. So, yeah, I think I saw a picture of you you got pictures of you with all these famous people.
I've had the best life ever lived.
She's a picture of her with Obama someplace and with Bobby Kennedy and, all these people. And I'm like, who's that with River?
Like Forrest Gump.
Yeah. Who's that with River? Zach was talking about, and I just saw this recently, which is he was going, I've been looking at this, and I think that people have been talking about there being sort of an extinction event occurring, and that's what's going to happen. And he said, I think that's right, but it's not the kind of extinction that we think that it's going to be. Mm-hmm. He said, what I'm seeing is that in looking at this, a lot of our the way we are in the world is based on your DNA structure and stuff like this, right? He said that essentially what no longer serves us eventually has to go. Okay. And so what no longer serves us, that's having the biggest impact in the world right now, is the fear response.
Yeah.
Fear response is genetically coded. That needs to be extinguished because it's no longer worth anything. So, and so that is what is going to be happening. Then all of a sudden, there it is. Now it's a new world and it's not holding you back. And because you've lost it, it's no longer valid. You know, I mean, my teachers used to tell me that fear is never justified.
It's in one of my spiritual teachings where they asked, well, what are you saying about if there's if I was standing there, someone drew a knife on me and they were aiming it at me, they were about to kill me. What are you saying I should be? Neutral? Equilibrium? And the answer was no, loving. And I want to be that way. And I plan to. And I've seen things that were close to death for me. And I want to be fully in loving space no matter what. And that comes back to what we were talking about earlier with the nervous system, really, because as inside, so outside. That's not a made up saying. It's not a small sentence. It's true. So I can change the entire universe by simply working on my insides. And I'm working toward a place of more peace, love, and light inside. The worlds are shifting, meaning that the one that's going toward the dark side is going to get darker. So there's going to be a lot of what looks to us like loss of life and a lot what looks to us like suffering in that other world. It's going to actually get much worse than it is now. But the question is, can we do our internal work to keep ourselves on the new earth and really be here when the new age hits, where all what Zach was saying, he was talking about the new earth. So he was talking about the ones who will be on this sphere of light. Our DNA will no longer code for fear. And fear is just, like I said, a made-up idea. We don't need it at all. So even if someone has a knife pulled on me, I don't need fear. And it actually just harms me in that moment, even if I were about to die. And what I want to do is love and accept that knife holder. And I want to say, sweetheart, you look like you need a hug.
That's some serious spiritual Aikido that you're talking about there.
Yeah, it's not small, is it? But but it's simple. It's also kind of simple. Yeah.
How are you going to get someone to believe that one?
Well, I'm not asking for that. Whoever hears this and feels it's true in their heart will be with it. So I go down to the granular level with people. What we're talking about is in almost like cosmology, right? But when I work with people, we go inside. And so the first step is to find that relaxed nervous system inside. And I have practices for that we do. And since I'm working with sexuality, we work with touch right off the bat. And so when it comes to, I have my own meditation practices that are many. But when it comes to what I'm showing people, we start with, it's basically a sensory meditation with the hands. So that right now I'm touching my hand with my fan lightly. And as I have worked on this practice over 14 years, my hands have actually woken up because my hands, we think our hands are tools. That's all we use them for. It's just crazy. It's ludicrous. We're like driving, typing, making food. That's good. It's not bad. But it's nothing about what they're here for. They're here as Maserati pleasure perceptors. Our hands have more nerve endings than any other part of the body than genitals and lips. So if I can wake my hands up in this meditative place, so the idea is create a still place, put on whatever soft music you like and whatever you do to relax yourself the most, and then just lay back. You want to be sitting or laying back all the way so your spine isn't working, the muscles there aren't working. It interrupts the brain process. And then I want to just touch stuff and just feel stuff. And I want to feel objects, not people, right, first.
Yeah.
It's important. So I'm just waking my own hands up. This turns into a radical meditation, and it relaxes my nervous system. So now I'm out of the thinking mind, and I'm in my much more wisdom, my place of wisdom, which is my body. And from that place, now I can start to learn much, much more about the universe. So it's really about that internal place. If we don't start with that, then we certainly can't be really learning sex, because I have I've taken a lot of trainings in the country on sex and what have you. I've been around the industry, and a lot of people teach sexuality from a really activated place. So if the nervous system is activated to begin with, and you're trying to learn about sexuality, you're in a hyped up version of sexuality, and you're somewhat in your mind, because you never took that step to shut it down. And most people are learning about sexuality from a very activated place. And I'm not going to go everywhere into sex unless you ask me to, but I'm going to say that porn, mainstream porn, I love the concept of filming sex. I think that's just a wonderful, wholesome. What could be more wholesome or natural? But when it comes to the mainstream porn product that we see, it's very harmful. It's very activated. It's very a sad version of what we are capable of doing with our sexuality.
I thought about this during the COVID period of time, and the compulsive addictive nature of people plugged into, an alternative form of life, essentially, that was draining them electronically.
Yes.
And financially. We have so much problem with addiction and giving up our power. That's a big topic. That getting people free from addiction of all kinds. It's not just drugs, as in classic drugs or pharmaceutical drugs or cocaine or, amphetamines or pot or whatever. And now we're on dopamine hits from the devices, right? So I personally had to it's been about 2.5 weeks now. I've been off Facebook.
Ooh.
And, I won't stay off of it because there are certain ways that there's certain things that I will need to communicate on Facebook to promote this podcast. For example, I started looking at my own self on this, and it was like, wow, I would get on it when I would be bored, or I would be burnt out, needing to feel like I need to take a break from my work stuff.
What I like to talk about is that up here, I'm pointing to my head, I have 57 years of data and other people's ideas. When you think about what the brain, the logical thinking mind, is really everyone else's ideas that I've come across for 57 years. That's what it is. It's a log of that, and I can spit it out and recombo the ideas. But that neglects 4 billion years of wisdom that's in the rest of my body. And I know I'm oversimplifying where everything is, but the logical thinking mind has a very limited capacity. Even though I was trained in my logical thinking mind, and I definitely used it really well. I had my own law office over 20 years. And now I know, that was actually the weakest part of me. So actually, if we can learn to drop down out of that part, every single cell has the history of all of life on Earth. I mean, that's a miracle. I literally, if I can tap into that wisdom, I am coming from 4 billion years of wisdom when I live my life. And so as I go out the door in the morning, I am in my primordial purpose. I am moving forward in the earth from something that is far deeper and more wise than what everyone else has told me, which is the logical thinking mind. And I'm coming up with my own inner wisdom, which is far more interesting and smarter, quote unquote, than what my logical thinking mind can come up with. So I like to stay in my logical thinking mind now, like hopefully 30 minutes or less a day. It's only when I only call it in to like solve a problem or get on email, which I try to only do about once a week, email. So it's like I I just call it in and I'm like, we need to do emails and it's going to be easy and fun. And I sit down, and because I've trained my mind, it's like a very well-trained German Shepherd now, instead of a crazy little puppy mutt running around.
Yeah.
And so it's ready. And so when I'm like, we're going to do these emails now, right? I'm like, yeah. Boom, we hit it so fast out of there. And I'm like, good, because I'm done with that brainwave state for now. I want to be in my other brainwave states for the rest of the day. And that's where I stay now. I've learned how to stay there almost all the time. And it's very beautiful here.
Is there a way to be actually still practicing law and to do what you're suggesting?
Well, I was a trial attorney when I started waking up spiritually. So I went on my spiritual path. It was actually 10 years from the time I started waking up until I actually closed the office fully. So I was going on spiritual retreats, learning about my insides and my power. And I also thought, I think I'll be a much worse trial attorney if I shut the mind down. What would happen there? And that wouldn't be good. And what did happen was that I kept going, because that's how I am. I knew it was the right path. In my heart, I knew it was the right path. So I kept going with it. And one day I was sitting in meditation, and all of a sudden, the entire trial for the coming week fell into my consciousness in 10 seconds. I channeled the whole trial, like the very best story, the order of the witnesses, what each witness need to say to get the point across the best to the judge, what the other witnesses would be cross-examined the best. An entire trial, as you know what I mean by this, there's a lot of different pieces of that. And it all came in 10 seconds. And I was meditating. I'm like, wow, that's how it works. And when I was finished, I went and I wrote like 10 pages of notes, like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, right? And then I also realized when I walk into the courtroom, I'm a different type of person. I thought it would be a weaker, quote unquote, attorney, but no. Who do you want to listen to more? Someone who's fully embodied, or someone who's a chatterbox and going in every direction? So I found that no, what I'm being asked to do is train my mind. It's a very beautiful part, but it only wants to do certain things, and it doesn't need a lot of space and time. So I think it was a big revelation for me that I could tap into this far greater source of information, and even the trials got better. You shared some stories with me about some interesting metaphysical type of cases in a way that you've had. I remember when I was waking up as a lawyer, and I was, before that, I was so in my mind, I feel like I was like a social justice warrior as a lawyer also, and lobbyist for social justice causes. So I thought I had my life mission, which was kind of a law kind of mission. Because we changed a lot of laws in Texas, too. We did a lot of work at the legislature, and we did a lot. And I thought that was my mission at the time, but I was so disembodied. I was so out of my body. I was just this walking brain. And when I first started waking up spiritually, I remember that someone walked in my office, and my assistant, I think, and I was like, hey, how was your weekend? And I'm like, wait, did I just say that? Because I never cared about anyone's weekend before this.
Yeah.
I never wanted to know what their weekend was like, but I actually wanted to know. I was like, I actually want to know how their weekend was.
Yeah.
And it was just such a wild moment. It seems so silly now, but it's what you're talking about, my heart opened finally. And because I could see new parts of myself, I could finally see new parts of other people.
Yeah.
Finally, I saw how human everyone was. It's quite a beautiful awakening. I almost want to cry because
I know.
it was a lot of wasted time before that.
Oh.
Or I won't say wasted, but, a lot of time I lived almost 40 years without knowing any of this.
Tell me about I want to hear some magical stories about you in the legislature. Like what?
Legislature.
What were you doing? But you talked about you were like a social activist lawyer to some degree, and you call yourself a lobbyist, but like what kinds of things were you working on?
Yeah, thank you. Oh man, it's just such a beautiful time. Even then, we were dreaming and creating, even then we were dreaming and creating. We were just working inside this little system that I thought then we could change a little bit. We did make new laws. Whether we changed the world, I don't know. But I will say that in the beginning, I got out of law school and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with this law license that's awesome in addition to just having a business? And maybe I should work on, like, now that I have the expertise, maybe we could improve government somehow. And then I'm like, what would be the most serious thing in the whole world the government does that's not right? Surely it's when they shoot someone in the face for no reason. And so I got into police accountability.
Oh.
And back then it was in the 90s and there was no movement. There was such no movement. There had been a movement in the 70s and I met some of those women in town, but there has been no movement. And so there was such no movement that if anyone who is killed by the police is of color, that's how it always was. And so if a person of color was killed by the police, it would be a like 1-inch story in the Austin American-Statesman, because we had newspapers back then. And it would say, person was out of control, police had to shoot them.
Right.
That's all it was. And we would dig and we would find the evidence and we would be like, wait a minute, that's not what happened there.
Yeah.
That's not even close to what happened there. And so we did that over and over. And that work in Austin, Texas, I band up with an awesome person who became a very best friend of mine, and we were unstoppable. And so we just started making up what needs to change in this city. And then I just made it my mission to meet everybody in town. And somehow I missed you.
And she said, in my neighborhood, for God's sakes. How blind was I?
And finally, they put the police monitor's office in place. So back then we were asking for civilian oversight. And because of our work, they put in the Austin Police Monitor's office. And I was sitting on a committee then with Mayor Butler back then, and it was Mike Sheffield, the union chief, and all these people. And Mayor Butler was no longer mayor, but he's a legend in Austin. And it was Kirk Watson was the actual mayor. And so I helped form the Police Monitor's office here in town, which is really a piece of shit. It does nothing. But that's what happens in government. They say we're going to do these things, and then they make it a false appearing thing, so it really has no power. But from there, we realized, well, the real action for police is at the state legislature because they're actually fully protected by state law, the civil service law. And so, well, hell, the Capitol's in view. Why am I not up there? I can see the Capitol. So we went there, and we went there every day. And we started changing not only police accountability laws, but we went into racial justice. We got the first racial profiling law passed in 2001. That was the very beginning of our work. Then the police in Texas have to write down the person's color when they stop them to see if everything's working fairly. I don't believe in that right now. I actually don't believe in talking about people's skin color anymore at all. I think it's degrading. But at the time we did that, then we went in to decide, well, you know what? These prisons are too big in Texas. They're too big. There were 130 units, and we saw who was going into them, petty drug users. And so we decided to change that, and we did. So we started working on the criminal justice committees, and we ended up bringing in this really major evolution and we mobilized people statewide. So I would go statewide doing town hall meetings in different towns and cities in Texas, and we'd bring busloads of people in T-shirts up to the legislature. And I got to know personally I was the lobbyist, so I would be the one actually meeting. I was in the inside game, and the outside game was all the public stir-up we wanted to do. And we changed the Texas prison system, and they were shutting units down. I think they've shut down 3 or 4 units now. When we went in, they were going to build 3 new units. They stopped that plan, and they started shuttering units because we brought in a bunch of new laws that created treatment, not incarceration for people. And so people were kept out of prison that way. And then I'll say one more thing that we did, which there are so many, but I want to say one more, which there were regional narcotics task forces in Texas. And they were out of control racial issues with that. out of control. So in rural areas, all they were doing to get their federal money was going into the black neighborhood once a year and raiding and picking everyone up and putting them in jail. And then they'd get their money. And they had no evidence. And so we literally nuked them. Literally, they got canceled in Texas, which was 1/3 of all narcotics officers were taken off the street that day. And that bill was Senator Whitmire, the dean of the Senate, decided to do that. And the Tulia people were involved with that. And Senator Whitmire got that bill signed by every senator in one day. And then went through the House like wildfire, and that all those narcotics task forces had to find a new job. And we were happy they had to find a new job because I think they could find a better thing to do with their time than that.
I remember the Tulia stuff.
That was our thing that that was a highlighted case that brought in the end of the regional narcotics task forces.
Was Jeff Blackburn involved in that?
Yeah, he's part of that.
He was a law school classmate of mine.
Oh, he was. That makes sense. He's a wonderful lawyer. Very good. And then one other one I want to say is that because of that, which was part of that, we changed the law so that you can no longer convict a criminal defendant solely on the evidence of one informant, which is the snitch law.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Because that's what they would do with these big neighborhoods. They would go put 30 people in jail, and then they could convict them with one lying informant. All the person had to say is, yep, I sold drugs to all 30 of those people. That's it. The case was over. It was so preposterous.
Yeah.
And so the funny thing about the legislature, about how that one was passed, was that we were coming to a House floor debate with the bill. And my friend, Scott Henson, thought of this because he's an Old Testament scholar. And he was like, do you know in the Bible it says, Jesus said, do not put any person in prison on the word of one witness. And we put that on flyers, and we papered the House floor.
I just had goosebumps on that one.
And one of the most conservative members of the whole legislature got up and pounded his fist. This is a mandate for us. We have to do it. Jesus said.
That's amazing.
And it passed.
That's amazing.
That's the kind of shit we would think of because you have to speak the language of who's there.
A conversation like this is important to have because, there's a lot of good cops and there's a lot of people that want to do good things.
Yeah, of course there are. And they're hurt by the ones that aren't.
Right.
They're totally hurt by that.
Yes. And it's a tough job.
It's not easy. I don't think it's the hardest.
Yeah.
Honestly, but it is not easy.
Yeah. I mean, there's situations that happen. There's also, there's situations that happen and people have to do things. So then there gets to be developed an attitude of us against them.
That's the sad part that happened.
Houston had a real problem with the dead people showing up that were in arrests. They would be
in jail. They would be custody.
Or pullover, like a stop.
Houston was killing. Police were killing more than anybody when I started.
Yeah, they
by
pull you over for
far,
a traffic stop,
by far, Harris County.
The traffic stop, or there'd be a raid in a place, and then all of a sudden somebody's dead. And there was what they used to call a throwdown gun.
Yes.
Okay, which was just an unmarked, untraceable gun, and they would just throw it down. So the guy was
had a gun.
He had a gun, so we had to kill him. It's self-defense.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty legendary back in those days, it got better, but it took.
It was still there when we started. That's how it was. The throw down drugs and guns were part of it. In fact, the Mala Sangre and the police here in IPD, that was when I was in there. They found that police had a gang, a drug-running, violent, prostitution-running gang in APD, Austin Police Department, called Mala Sangre was the investigation that finally uncovered it.
What year was that?
Those would have been in the 90s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it was still like that.
A lot of people aren't aware of, they should be now, but they're not aware of, is that oftentimes those high-up law enforcement agencies like the DEA and the CIA, Bureau of Narcotics, they're taking a piece of the action. Sometimes they're running the game. They are running the game.
Yeah.
Because they can bust the opposition dealers, or they can
That's what was
facilitate
happening.
somebody else.
Grab a bunch of it for themselves.
Yeah.
upon the bus.
Yeah. It's a big deal. It's been a big deal for a long, long, long time.
I think what I described was really just the piddly kid play, compared to what has been going on in the U.S.
Yeah, that was the cops and robbers version of it, the local version of it, where it's like on one side there's the criminals, on one side there's the cops, and if you change the masks, they're the same.
Talking about the Texas legislature, one of my favorite stories is, I'm going to say the names because I think they'd be proud of the story, I think.
Yeah.
But back then it was Senator Juan Hinojosa. He was so wonderful. I met a few people there who are truly out there for the people's good. It's rare in politics, but there are some. I just love the Texas legislature myself. I think it's just wild and free. But anyway, we had a bill, might have been the informant bill. It was going, no, I think it was another one. It was going to the House floor. And we were up in the gallery. So, I know you know, but for your audience, we have the House and the Senate, and they're on the floor. Literally, it's a floor. And then the audience doesn't sit on the same floor they're on. We're up in a balcony area. So we're up in the balcony if we want to watch them. And I was watching to see if our bill would pass from the House balcony, and they call it the gallery. And here comes, it was very touchy, and Chairman Keel, Terry Keel, a legend in Austin, had to fight for the bill on the floor in a few minutes. And he's the best floor fighter there was. But he was wavering on whether he was going to fight hard for it. And so Senator Hinojosa, who was the bill sponsor on the Senate side, walked over from the Senate. And I was watching them. And, of course, everyone's carrying weapons. It's just how Texas is anyway, certainly at the legislature. And so that's just how it is. And so Keel was sitting in his chair. They were arguing very heated. I could see it was very heated. I could see Hinojosa getting really inflamed. Like, I think he was like, if you don't fight for this bill, you have to fight for this bill. You said you would. And I could see Keel shaking his head. And then all of a sudden, Hinojosa put his hand on his holster. And Keel leaned so far back in his chair, I thought it was going to tip over. And he was so afraid. He was just like, and Hinojosa was coming at him. He got the stance of like coming at him to pull the gun. Oh my God. And then Keel put his hands up like, okay. And then he went up there and gave the fight of his life for that bill, and it passed. I thought he was going to draw it on the House floor. I have so many stories. It's just on and on and on.
Well, tell us another story.
Well, I had this. I'll say one more, because I have so many stories about many different areas, but I can go all day. I had a bill that in the Criminal Justice Committee was chaired by Senator Whitmire. And Senator John Whitmire, who was, I think, the most powerful Democrat at the time. Everything was controlled by the Republicans as far as House, Senate, governor office. So the whole time I was lobbying, we had to sell to the Republicans, even though at that time I wasn't one, and I'm not now, but we needed to dress everything up like to fit Republicans. We had a big lobby team, and we wouldn't let anybody go in if they had a lot of earrings or colored hair or things. We're like, no, I'm sorry, but we have to sell this to a certain group, so we're going to need to wear suits. We found out that they like slick printing. So we had everything printed real colorful and slick. It made a difference. But anyway, here I was, and I wanted to get my bill through the Senate committee, and I kept trying to figure out how to get in touch with Senator Whitmire myself, and I couldn't quite get to him. They all have a lot of staff. And finally, his staff main assistant, who's really wonderful, and Lawrence, and I'm like, I know I'm in here talking to you every day. How do I get to Senator Whitmire? Because he was like, well, I don't know if he'll do this or not. I'm like, well, I need to find out if he'll do it now. And he goes, well, have you invited him out for a drink? And I was like, no, can I do that? He's like, yeah, that's pretty much how it's done. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then so I just waited for the next hearing to be over, and I just waited. I love stalking people like you do. And so I just stalked him and went over. I'm like, hey, want to have a drink later? And he was like, yeah. And we just became best friends, and we would just have drinks all the time. And he just put about 10 or 15 of our bills through.
Fantastic.
But he wasn't going against his grain. He's another human being who's for the people. I can say that about John Whitmire. Right now, he's the mayor of Houston.
Oh,
But
that's the guy, the mayor of Houston.
yeah, he's now the mayor of Houston. He came in
okay.
after Sylvester Turner.
Yeah.
But he's a person for the people. He is a good human being.
Oh.
And he wields a lot of power. And so we just became best friends.
Interesting people down there.
Yeah, it's a colorful city.
Yeah, Dr. Barone is there too.
I don't know that person.
He is a force in medicine. He's trying to rework medicine, give sovereignty for physicians.
So they could speak how they want to
Yes,
and actually
he's
diagnose people if they
yes.
feel like it.
He's a triple board certified doctor who actually owned his own hospital for a time, and he teaches as well. But he's a hands-on guy, and he worked in COVID. He was like a frontline guy doing stuff with people, trying to figure out and crack the code of like, what's really going on here. His daughter is an Eastern medicine doctor, and he said, I had a stroke one time, and alternative medicine brought me right back on board.
I think I mentioned to you I've never in my adult life asked a Western medical physician for their opinion about anything.
Let's go. Well, let's get this. Okay, so let's talk about this because
I think I'm pretty healthy too. I think I did a great job so far.
what do you do to keep yourself like in tune and healthy physically?
I guess, when I was 21, I came across the book Diet for a Small Planet. My cousin gave it to me, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Very old classic. But that one is just about how we eating meat is not sustainable for Earth. Now, there's a bunch of, I'm not saying there's a bunch of pieces there. That was from the 70s, I think. But I went vegetarian 36 years ago after I read that book. All I did was say, I'm going to make a New Year's resolution and stop eating meat and just see what it feels like. But from the first day and the second day and the third day, my body just got so much more happy. And I've never wanted again to have a piece of meat in my mouth, even though I didn't want to force myself to do that. It just happened and it felt great. But then that began a journey of like, well, what else are they telling us to do that really isn't very good for us? That's the beginning. That was 37 years ago. So then it just became a learning. I went into the health food stores and I would just get the books that were there and read them and learn. And now I eat, I'm a vegan, mostly raw. I mostly eat raw. I eat a lot of what I eat is sprouted seeds. I do a lot of sprouting and fermenting. I sold my stove years ago. And I just have instead a commercial size refrigerator because I do a lot of sprouting and fermenting that uses refrigeration and eat raw food. And I also take care of my health by moving and getting outside a lot. And I'm outside a lot. I think I'm gifted with a lot of melanin in my skin. So I've never used sunscreen. I don't use any commercial product on my body or my mouth other than one that Zach Bush makes. That's a really specific skin biome spray from stuff. But other than that, I make my own toothpaste, lip gloss, lotions, and things like with oils and essential oils. I don't buy any processed food. At this point, I really am sad about individual use food and drink packages. And I really couldn't understand for a long time how we think we can go get a meal that has about 10 pieces of trash and put that away 3 times a day. Actually, after I went to India and saw that they don't do that and we don't have to do that, and I realized when I came back from India, I'm a walking landfill.
Yeah.
If you just take just what I do, that's a landfill. And I'm not doing it anymore. So I have no disposable paper products in my home anymore other than toilet paper and some paper to write on. I just took each piece of my life one at a time and said, where's the integrity? What's the highest level of integrity here? I only eat organic. I walk to farmers markets. I walk almost everywhere that I go. I walk to the Barton Springs about every other day. So I'm in natural earth spring water from the deep belly of Mother Earth about every other day. I don't use any shampoo anymore. I just only spring water touches my hair. I don't even let tap water touch it. I
Wow.
know. I didn't know we don't need it, but we don't. And so that's the kind of life I've had where it's just like, do I need this? No. Could I make this with a great organic product? Yes. And what could I eliminate and what do I need left? And not much is left, but whole natural products and getting outside and moving and meditating and yoga. And of course, I'm a certified Tantra practitioner, Tao instructor, and a lot of different ways that I keep my energy cultivated.
Wow.
I also have my home EMF mitigated, and my bedroom is a Faraday cage, a full Faraday cage, which has 3 layers of different kinds of metallic paint under the colored paint that go metallically to a medically grounded copper rod, 2 of them into the ground, so that every bit of EMF around me when I sleep is captured and grounded and does not hit me.
Wow.
So I'm kind of hardcore on health, and it has nothing to do with the mainstream, which is all sick. I don't take any pharmaceutical. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I would just start laughing if someone told me to take one. I would just start laughing at them.
Do you eat nuts or no?
I have some nuts, but to put those in a whole lot is kind of heavy. But I do. They're like a delicious accoutrement.
I have a friend that is basically a fruitarian.
Like literally?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And they go on these extended, and it's all raw. And she says the amino acids that you get just from that, if you're on a mono fruit diet, start doing the right stuff.
I've heard that. I saw a man recently online talking about being a fruitarian who was very healthy looking. I haven't learned that level, myself of nutrition either to create the protein in my body. So for me, I'll just like to eat protein too every day.
Yeah.
But I just make sure I have enough every day for my own body.
One of the things that a lot of people that I know are working with here is there are downstream effects that have occurred in a fairly wide range of things from certain of the vaccines, the COVID vaccines, and particularly related to spike protein behavior.
I have a lot of experience myself in the last few years with spike protein, not because I took the shot, but because I touch people in my career. And so I also firmly am against excluding people from places. So I didn't exclude my vaccinated clients from my work at that time, and I touched them. And I have vaccine shedding induced myocarditis. So I'm a super healthy person, and then all of a sudden I was having heart attacks. Like seriously, on the floor, heart attack. And my homeopath has, helping me. I've got people helping me that are naturopaths. I believe the spike protein is actually been shown in science to still be in people's bodies because it is a manufacturing plant that has been put into people's bodies to manufacture itself. So it's procreating in the body even more now. So I believe that not only people who had the shot, but people like me who have it in me anyway, have a lot of detoxing to do to keep the spike protein out of our bodies. And so I personally follow a lot of, I would say, the smartest doctors in the universe who are not typical Western medical physicians, such as Dietrich Klinghardt. I don't know if you know who he is. He's such a magnificent and legendary doctor from Germany. And he's been around a long time. So I was watching him for years and years before COVID hit. And when it did hit, I went straight to his website to see what it was. What I do now is something that he recommends strongly. And there's a supplement called Augmented NAC. There's only one company that has found this way to do the augmented NAC. And I go on a heavy protocol of that from time to time. I just did a 90-day kind of hard-hitting protocol that really gets rid of spike protein from the body. And then I also use the Bob Beck protocol right now. It's electromagnetic work with the blood, and it's frequency work. So about every day, I wear this little tiny little machine. You can make them yourself if you're smart, but I'm not. So I bought one for a couple $100, and it pulses a frequency into my blood that actually cleans my blood every day. And so I'm cleaning my blood and using the augmented NAC to fully clean out all these other tissues. And so those are the protocols I've been using lately. Another thing about this is like, I really feel too, I love what you said about blaming. And I think one of the most important things we can do is stay in a high consciousness level. I think that's the one that we can all do that's free of charge and doesn't take a lot of money or investment of time. And one thing I've noticed a lot about our society and the blaming is that the victim drama triangle. I know you know this triangle. It's the victim, the perpetrator, and the savior. I don't know if Jerry Spence used it in his training, but I was taught in mock trial in law school to put every trial into the victim triangle. Were you taught that? I mean, it's basic. It's basic. Like people's minds want to put it, our human minds, poorly trained, want to put everything into a victim, perpetrator, savior triangle. And so in every trial, make sure that my client's the victim, your client's the perpetrator, and the judge gets to be the savior.
Or the jury gets to be the savior.
Yeah, judge or jury, whoever's there gets to be the savior. I think it's funny because I think that's a diseased way of looking at the world now. And I see how it's very important that I, River, notice when I find myself in any one of those pieces of the triangle, because if I've taken one, I've taken them all. And I can't ever get out of it until I let go of the whole triangle and stop blaming. And so instead, I have a 2-step process I created. The first step of the process is, River, honey, what do you need? Give that to yourself. Take care of yourself right now and get whole again, get happy again, get who you really are here to be. And then after I do that process and I'm feeling awesome again, then I look to the person who I thought was my perpetrator and I'm like, the second step is curiosity. Like, hey, when you did that thing, like you stepped on my toe or like you threw that boulder at my face, you're like, hey, what did you mean by that? I'm just curious what was going on over there. That was really major. And then just like listen and try to understand what their day is like, why they would have done something so crazy. I think the consciousness level is the main thing we can do truly to come out of, even above any kind of physical ailment. So I'm kind of an anti-victim or drama triangle crusader now. Mm-hmm. And I understand so deeply that once I'm in one piece of it, I'm in all of it, and I can't get out until I recognize I need to get out of this, right? Because as soon as I'm a victim, I see this in the sex world a lot because we'll be like, he violated her consent. And right now, like after the Me Too movement, it's been like, let's all hate him. No matter what, let's not investigate or anything like that. Victims never lie. That's a very dangerous and very poisonous statement. Mm-hmm. Because we all lie sometimes.
Yeah.
And if I become a victim, I'm immediately going to try to become the savior. And then what am I going to do? Perpetrate on the person who I thought was the perpetrator, but now I'm going to go perpetrate on them until they stop perpetrating. Because I'm going to now call the police, and I'm going to now bring you to trial, and I'm going to get you to your knees because you have to go down until I'm not going to be happy till you're low and down. Now I'm the perpetrator.
Rising above
the drama triangle. And if you look around, I don't see very much of the mainstream media microphone out of it. I only see in it.
Were you this happy when you were a lawyer?
No.
Because I'm looking at you, I'm seeing somebody who is healthy and who's happy and who's enjoying being where they are in the world and is making a impact.
Thank you so much, Mark. That's very sweet. We talked just off camera a little bit about weaponizing compassion and how, it's been weaponized a lot. And even now there are people like, if you're not down, if you're not upset by the suffering, you're a bad person. I've heard that. And this is what someone said to me, I think is so funny. It's like, really, think about any ascended master who you love. Let's just think of, I think Jesus Christ is a really cool person now that I know more than the Christian religion taught me when I was growing up. Now I think he's awesome. And they said, I was thinking of Christ himself. And they were like, what would happen if Christ was walking around and there were all these people who were like sick, and dying coming toward him? And he was like, oh, oh man. Oh, that must suck. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, I feel shitty too now. Oh, I feel shitty. Like, that's actually not the solution.
Yeah.
It can't be. So the only thing we need to do in the whole universe, our whole lives, is cultivate our inner being and be. Just be.
So how does that work with my chihuahua? Because, it's all got to be about me somehow, River.
I don't know if we're not going to have time for this, but I train dogs.
That was so funny. That was so funny.
And so true.
Okay, so, now, have you ever worked with chihuahuas that are shape-shifting chihuahuas that hide inside of a big 6'4" lawyer?
Are you saying you have one?
Yes.
Oh my God.
No,
what are we going to do?
Okay, so what are we going to do? Okay, so this little chihuahua, he's usually gone by the time I get most of my day out of the way. But then I go to bed. This chihuahua goes off into illnesses and diseases and phantom this and that. And boom, boom, boom,
He's
boom,
good.
boom. Oh my God.
He's good.
So how do I deal with that chihuahua?
That's that $1 million question,
Yep.
right? Because that's bringing that nervous system to relaxation.
Yeah.
And I just want to invite you tonight to just see if it makes a difference. If you turn on your touch sense a little and just touch stuff, and to feel it. When I say touch something, people are like, oh, like I'm touching the arm of this chair. I'm like, what do you notice there? I'm like, oh, it's smooth. I'm like, no, not about the chair. What do you notice about yourself, your hand, your insides, the sensory experience of that? And you might find something you like if you stick with it for a second. It usually takes a little while for people when they do it before it really clicks. And when it clicks, then the sensory experience can become overwhelming of all other parts of experience. That might help you come out of the mind a little. It's just one different way sort of meditating, but you get to turn on your sensory experience. And by the way, we start touching objects, not people, not even my own body in the beginning, because if I'm touching you, there's a lot of other stuff going on than just me trying to feel my hand. Mm-hmm. There's a lot other. And when I introduce another human being and start touching them, that's a variety of different things are happening all at once. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I'm thinking about, do they like this? And do they like me? And are we getting married tomorrow? Am I going to get a ring tomorrow? And like, are they cute enough for me? Or, all these things.
Yeah.
So we start learning about touch with no human. So you can just get your own body flowing first. But it's something to try.
What are you seeing as things that people have learned about relationships and or sex in growing up that affect the way they live their lives?
I have a weekend workshop that I feel like is such an initiatory experience. It's in person, and in that workshop we dive into this a bit. But from the time we're born, after the nerve endings connect and we have all this sensory awareness, in our culture, which is so dark right now, some say we're in the darkest age of all timelines, all galaxies right now. And so it's so dark that as soon as the child starts growing up, they start getting, don't touch, don't cry. All that's like, pulling back my sensory awareness. Like, it's not okay to just feel everything and express everything. And then you have these other things that happen, like I believe circumcision is a very impactful thing for a child. And that's immediately they get to the world and then they're like, my most sensitive part was cut. and it has to do with my arousal. That's a sign that it does not stop in one day with the child, just like that spike protein is still in people's blood. That's a traumatic experience that still lives in the body. And then what I think is really the biggest thing that I hear no one talking about that's so important, boner shame. This may sound very strange, but if 1/2 of our population cannot move their body freely, we're not a free society, my love. We're not there. And we now know that mind, emotion, body are all one thing. They're not separate things. So if I can't move my body, it also stops my emotions and my thoughts in certain ways. And what I think is the irony and the saddest part is that for male-bodied humans, you can't move your body freely almost 100% of your life. Even for families, most of the families aren't going to have a boner in the house. The man has to wait till he's in the bedroom by himself to have a boner usually. But that also means that men don't have the same amount of emotional range because you can't be aroused at the grocery store like I can. So I can be at the grocery store in the produce section very, very aroused. And I can go through my whole day aroused and no one can say anything about that. But no, men can't. And then men can also not think about certain sexual arousal things all day long, like I can if I want to, with no one noticing. So I can be walking around with sexual fantasy in my head all day long and be aroused by it and be really alive feeling all day long. No, half of our population can't do that. And so I think it is an absolute tragedy, but here's the worst part of it. Then we have the nerve to turn around and say to men, you're emotionally broken. It's shocking. And we also have the nerve to say to men, oh, and also, in addition to that, you're not creative in bed. I'm like, well, maybe because they can't ever think about it. They can't show their most joyful emotion ever. And you're shaming and blaming if anyone even starts to go down that road. And now you're turning around and criticizing them. It's just unbelievable to me. It's really a pretty literal neutering. It's not that figurative. It's astounding to me. And so and that hurts our whole population. That hurts me too, that I don't have men who are fully themselves around me. That hurts me a lot. I think one of the biggest things people don't teach in sexuality that's very important is that if I want to reach sexual bliss, I want to open my emotional experience up to a broad range of bliss, maybe more than I've ever had before. But am I also willing to open up my discomfort and pain experience to more than I ever have before? Most people aren't, but they go together. So I, River, have chosen to have a broad range of human experience in my life. And so I have achieved, I think, the heights of sexual bliss. I haven't evaporated yet, so I must not have hit that level, but it's close. And I also feel a lot of pain sometimes. And I don't take prescriptions, so I let myself feel that pain. And I ask, what is the lesson of this pain? And I'm okay with that. And I don't think very many people teach that sexual bliss has a lot to do with allowing in all human experience into your life. And so to me, it's that exciting. It's that state of full aliveness and endless potential that might be great and might be not great, but it's full.
I get the one end of the stream. I get the bliss level.
Yeah,
Okay?
most people get that.
I understand that part of it, at least to where I've been so far.
Yeah.
But what you were saying about the concurrent pain coming with it, are you talking about pain going along with the bliss or in reaction to the bliss or opening up something else? I don't understand exactly what you're saying. How does it get in you that way?
Yeah, they might or might not be either at the same time or directly connected linearly to each other. But they might, because I know a lot of people, you probably know at least someone who has said before, like, well, I don't want another big love relationship because I cannot take the pain. right? People say that right now, right?
Yeah.
And that's like, well, then you're not getting either one, love, you know?
Yeah.
But as far as the pain goes, so I'm training my body to be in a relaxed nervous system. We've talked about that, right? That's the fundamental. And what that means is I'm training it to be relaxed with more and more intense situations. So first I'm training it just to be relaxed with no intensity. And then I'm going to start touching stuff and waking my body up. But eventually, when I'm really relaxed in that, I'm going to add a little intensity. And I'm still going to stay relaxed. So the way I teach about sex and sexual freedom is what we're looking for the highest levels of relaxation with the highest level of bliss at the same time. So the most beautiful sexual experiences I've had are with relaxed, deep breathing and waves. The reason I'm saying all of this is because over all of these years, I've trained my nervous system. I'm not perfect. I'm still learning, but I've trained it to remain calm in highly intense situations. So I can walk into a massive orgy and have massive group experience sexually and stay really relaxed. What does that mean about pain and discomfort? Now I can walk also at the same time, because I trained my system, now I can walk in and talk to my mom about a tough topic between us and stay relaxed and loving. I can go into situations with higher and higher levels of discomfort and tension and pain, but I stay relaxed and loving. So that is how that works together. And then they come together also. So the universe itself gives me both. They may not be with the same person or in the same hour, but if I just had a super high sexual experience, some point in my life, I'm going to have a very painful one to see, if I'm fully broadening my experience. Because that's what this is all about. It's not just about, the genitals feeling good is awesome, but that's such a small part of cosmic sexuality and what we can do. I'm into sexual geomancy and cosmic grid work with sexuality, and that takes a lot of intensity. And so all I'm saying is I have found, and people I know and my teachers have said they think it is true, that as I train my body to enter higher levels of bliss, relaxed, it's simultaneous that I've trained it to enter higher levels of pain and suffering and discomfort and stay relaxed and loving.
So what is geomancing?
When I say that, I'm talking about learning about Mother Earth, Gaia, the being, and her chakra system and her energy system. And I believe that the crust is it's like a chakra blockage. So she's got blocked energy centers, but we can help wake them up. So I believe in using sexual energy as part of that multidimensional work of waking up the Mother Earth energy channels. I wake my energy channels up. I connect with her energy channels and cosmic ones, and I actually become part of her grid and help wake up with extra love and light into the earth and into the cosmos.
Let me ask you about this one, because I've heard this from all kinds of people that are fairly conversant with energy work and metaphysical stuff. But it comes in the realm of this, sexual energy. It has to be a certain kind of thing with certain people, and otherwise it can be very harmful, because there's all these harmful things that can come into this portal of sexuality. And I just could not imagine some of these folks going, wait a minute, you're in a whole room full of people, whether it's an actual full-on orgy or whatever. But someone go, that's the most irresponsible use of sexual behavior ever, and you're damaging people and you're damaging yourself.
Well, I will say that it is powerful and it is serious and it is a big deal. I totally agree with them 100%. It's important to keep a clean space energetically and metaphysically and multidimensionally. So that's not a joke at all. And I've trained for a long time for this.
Talk to us about multidimensionality. What's that?
That's what's starting to wake up in humans who are waking up, is that we live in a world with many, most of what's around us is unseen. And there are many dimensions to this universe, and we can only see maybe 3 or 4 of them out of many more. And so, this UFO thing is getting pretty big. It's about to blow big time. I think it's about to blow publicly more so. But what I think is funny about that is like, well, do you believe you're a eternal soul? Most people do. Not some people don't. But like, well, if you think your soul's eternal, where the hell do you think the rest of you is living? Like, you're an ET yourself. You just are here right now. It's so funny to me when people are like, yes, I'm an eternal soul, but no, there's no extraterrestrial life.
Well, okay, so
It's like, oh, wait a minute. I'm so confused.
okay,
So there's extraterrestrial life, newsflash. So maybe your podcast is breaking it, but there is.
Let's talk about that because there could already be something happening in a bigger way.
It's starting to unfold now.
What way do you think it's going to come? This is a big thing because you
Yeah.
can be saying it now, and this could be blowing up in our faces pretty soon.
The biggest message I have to say is that the multidimensional beings, which there are so many we couldn't ever count, are largely and almost all full of peace and love and light, and have nothing to show us except more love and light, like what I'm talking about today, and love and acceptance of all things instead of control and possession. And so for me, the biggest message is the government is going to try, probably, because they're planning already to do that, and they're probably going to try to scare us with a lot of their fake magic technology that they've already reverse engineered from alien craft and aliens, which is very well proven. I think the most important thing for us all to know is that is BS. That's just wrong. It's false. And that's fear, which is a human creation. And so what's really happening is that so much more love and light is coming in, and millions of people are waking up every single day to communicate more with these unseen beings and forces of the universe. It's part of that entering the photon belt process and that world separating process. So there are channels, channeled voices have been coming down for a long time, where a human being can hear a multidimensional being speak through them, but the human is still the human, and the human is like, now that person's done speaking, now it's me. But they're still conscious and human. That's mostly how it happens. And now more and more people are actually becoming channels. So not only have some people never heard about a channel, many people are just starting to learn about it by just becoming channels, because these powers are coming in. I think that by the time the government tries to scare us, I think that there's going to be 10 to 1. People are going to be like, yeah, we're not buying that. Like, yeah, we already know there's life outside, and we're already talking to them. And so, good try on scaring us, but it didn't work.
Wow.
Because it's not hard to access channeled voices right now, and people who can channel. And so many voices are coming down to help us and help humanity make a smoother shift and smoother transition, so that more of us go on to the new earth in the higher state of consciousness. So if you have an open enough mind to hearing this, there are many helpers out there who are here to give us wisdom that's beyond what we fathomed before, but they're inviting us in. And of course, anyone could watch this and say, she's crazy, but in about a few weeks or months, or by the time this is put out there, it's going to be everybody who understands they exist. And probably, I think the majority is not going to fall for the fear side at all.
So as we were talking, all of a sudden it got very real, and I'm seeing different faces in you, and it's very interesting because you're also in the background behind you is that
That's
that.
beautiful.
Right. So, but you're saying,
Yes.
but you're literally, I'm seeing different faces and different stuff, and you came across
Because
very calm, in this way, and you know, was very good.
you're multidimensional, and that's what I'm talking about, Mark. I fully believe what you were seeing was true and real. I'm starting to see it too. I have to take my glasses off.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see
Right.
energy a lot more because those powers are coming in. It's such a beautiful time to be alive.
Right.
It's magic. So I'm just I could not be happier to be alive. I mean, we get to be here when these powers are coming in. And what could be more dreamlike? And we are immortal creators. So as we got these powers, we even have more of the understanding of what it means that we were made in the what's the word in the Bible, that we were made in the
Image.
image of the creator. It's what, to me, what that means is I'm a creator, a multi-dimensional immortal creator, and I came here for a specific mission and reason, to be in time, because we can do certain things here we can't do without time and without our limits of the human body. And like great sex. And that's one of the things we get to do here that you can't do without the body. So if you're out there in the audience wasting some space not having fantastic sex, get with it. We have certain powers here that we wouldn't have outside of here, and we came here to use those, not to sit here and be in the victim triangle and do what other people told us to do all day.
This is a pretty interesting time for us because we're actually getting you a cosmic queen of sorts,
Thank
whatever you want to say.
High priestess.
Yes, high priestess. Okay. Who has a chance to really go out there on a limb and say something about something that could be happening soon. And so what does this look like for what you're seeing that could happen here in the near future?
I feel like we are entering this beautiful time where, you know how some people say time seems like it's getting faster? I say that a lot.
Yeah.
'Cause it really does. At first, I thought that was just a saying, but then I started like, no, it really is actually. I think it really is. But what this whole idea about the world separating is that the reason it seems like it's getting faster is because some of us are getting multidimensional awarenesses. So our awareness is becoming broader and we're becoming aware of more things in every moment. But what's really happening with the space-time continuum is that we are coming to the end of it. We're coming to the end of being trapped in time. It's so hard to believe and imagine, but I believe it's true. We're coming, that's what this new Earth, I described earlier, these two spheres slowly separating, one into a very dark version of the Earth, and one to this beautiful new Earth, will be free of time. And so we will be reunited to our infinite immortal souls, and we will be free of the constraints of time and space. We will be all knowing, all able to fully love one another for all that we are and ever have been. That's what I believe is really happening. And then personally, I believe that we get to this point. I think that, like, I believe I'm trying to go in that direction myself. And so once that happens, our physical bodies are going to be changing. And what some people say is going to happen is that one day we're all going to walk outside and there are going to be thousands of spacecraft in the space that we can all see, that no one cannot see. All of them will appear at once, and the sky will be full, as far as we can see, what looks like an infinite number of craft. So they will reveal themselves. And at that moment, it's going to be very...
Oh, I just got goosebumps.
Did you?
Yeah, oh,
And
majorly.
that's the moment that is what every spiritual and religious belief has different ways of saying it. But the way I think it's going to happen is that'll be the moment where the worlds actually separate. And at that point, those of us who have cultivated our light bodies and our energy bodies, and the way I help people do that through sexual energy, those of us who have really vibrant light bodies will be ready to go on with the new earth. And it may be like weird because our own physical material bodies will be basically evaporating, and we will be actually becoming beings of light. Where we used to have blood flowing, it will be plasma. And this will actually happen. And the people who are on this other earth will not see that happening fully. They will not see that part of it. They'll see the ships, but they will only be afraid. And they'll go deeper into their fear of the ships. And they will actually separate into this other world. And the world of darkness will become darker and darker. And on that world will become volcanoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, nuclear bombs, more and more, just like really like Mad Max universe, like very dark. And this other world, we have shifted our bodies and will be beings of light. But it's also new for someone like me in a human body that will need to go through a healing process. And that's where I will be in an incubating healing process. All of my guides, my interdimensional guides who I now speak with in my meditations, will become my friends. They will materialize in front of me, around me as I heal, and you will become actual friends with your guides. Your little chihuahua will be right next to you. It'll be right there on the bed next to you. And you'll be like, oh, hi. And you get to meet your guides, and they will help you heal through the process of remembering back to your immortality and shifting your body physically out of material world into light body. And that's going to happen for a little while. To us, it'll feel fast, and we will be having inundations of memories that will be the infinite knowing that we've always had, but it will start coming back into us. All of that will feel very beautiful and feel like it's kind of fast as a healing and an acclimation process. But in truth, it will be a while. But once we get acclimated to the healing, then as soon as we're going to have an assignment. And the assignment is going to be go back to the dark earth and help your friends come over here. And go to the ones you love the most because they resonate with you the most, and so they will be able to hear you first. So go straight to the ones you love the most and help them. And then one by one, our arms are extended, and one by one, they come. They come over. I have so many chills because it's so beautiful. And as they come over, more and more come into the new earth. And eventually, no soul is left behind.
That's beautiful.
So there's not an eternal hell. There's a very dark, nasty place that you might go to, but all you have to do to shift from the dark earth to the new earth is have an internal shift. All you have to do is say, I want to go that way, and I'm ready to look at all my shit. It takes a lot of courage, and a lot of people aren't ready to say that right now. Yeah. And they're not ready to look at their shit because it's hard. Because I have been in the highest sexual bliss, and I've been in reeling fetal position pain also as I've gone through spiritual growth, because that's what it is, because I've looked at my shit, right? So all the people who are too afraid to look at their shit, but the beauty of this whole scheme to me, beyond the fact that no soul will be left behind, is that it's not like you're worse or you're eternally lost or there's nothing you can do to get yourself out of this pit. It's not like that. It's like, no, you can do it. That's why I'm speaking right now, and that's why you invited me to this podcast, so my voice can get to everyone, and so everyone can know, no, all you have to do is say, I am ready to work on all my shit. I'm ready to see the ugliest parts of myself, no matter how ugly they are, and I'm ready to heal them. And what do? Love and accept them.
You know, I remember people telling me about, I've been doing my shadow work, or I've been off.
It's shadow work.
Okay, so I didn't really know what that meant, because it became kind of like a cool term for people to toss around, right?
It was really trendy.
And so, I didn't really know what that was. Then I had this period of time where I was just literally in such pain. It was insanity, like anxiety, depression, just relentless pounding of myself, guilt, shame, flashing, just unbelievable stuff to where I remember I was in my little cottage house back there, which has like stone, kind of cold floors and stuff. And it's I like the building. It's a nice little space. I remember being so uncomfortable in my body that I couldn't sleep in my bed. And I remembered, like, at some point I would be curled up like on the edge of my bed with like maybe even a sleeping bag over me, like just taking up a tiny fraction of my bed, right? Like I was just like this. And then even that didn't work. I would get up in the middle of the night and I would be like, can I get comfortable anywhere? And I would be like curled up on the floor in a fetal position.
On a cold stone floor.
On a cold stone floor, just like there, because for a moment, that particular position offered a little tiny bit of relief from where was going on. And it was like that went on for a while with different, with different adaptive mechanisms, some of which were not healthy for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And until I literally was like, I remember the darkest moment that I had that I recall was I love my kids very much, then they're, important part of my life. But I was like so down in the dirt, feeling like I couldn't move, didn't care, nothing mattered. Okay. That literally if my kids were in front of the street as adults and there was a car coming, I don't know that I could get the words out or take a step to save them because I was that down in the dirt.
That's saying it all. Yeah.
And so, that was the lowest point that I remember. It was remarkable, right? And going, wow, now I know what people are talking about, right? Because literally just
dark night of the soul.
Right, yep, just dark night of the soul, and kind of like I had help from people, but I didn't even want anybody to help me. I didn't want some nice person to be being all concerned for me or helping me or taking care of me. I just didn't want none. I didn't want anyone to be around me, period. I didn't want anything. I didn't even want to be there. And so that level, I think there's a lot of people, because once I started talking about that part for me, then I get a lot of people have said, oh yeah, I went there too. And then people start sharing their stories about that, their various coping mechanisms, right? Just flat out depression or turning to alcohol in different forms, or drugs in different forms, or, whatever paths of avoidance that people had.
Numbing and distracting.
Yeah, numbing and distracting. Huge.
Yeah.
I just wanted to numb it, whether it was for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. If I could have just done something every 5 minutes to take away that pain, I would do it.
That's exactly what I mean by most people don't want that pain. They want to get out of it no matter what, in a heartbeat, as fast as they possibly can.
Yeah.
But that's just not the healthy way to live, right? Obviously, you at some point, you must have decided to feel it because you're sitting here, a very healthy human. Did you ever decide, I'm just going to face it?
Well, I had to,
That's what shadow work is, and it's very difficult. It's not a joke.
Yeah.
It can feel life or death.
Yeah. I mean, I've had those big highs, of different kinds. And, just next level celestial, just wow, the universe opened up. Here we are, right? Yeah. I've had those. And then, I've had big losses too. I've had big hits, for me. I mean, everybody has them. I had a recent experience that was very interesting in that I get unusual calls from time to time because I'm a lawyer and I have friends and they get in trouble, and I'm like their guy they can call to talk to about whatever crazy shit is.
Yeah.
So there was a call, and Riley, who you met, she goes, I got this call, and I don't know what to make of this call. It doesn't look like it's not the case. It's somebody that says they knew you 50 years ago. And it's a woman, and she wants to apologize. And so I'm like, wow. Okay. I mean, in my flashbacks of things that could happen, it probably wouldn't be a woman calling me to apologize. It could be the other way around, but yeah, I did the call, and it was something that the person, in their view of it, they had been the person that had hurt me.
Yeah.
And in my view at the time, that was what it was too. But it's like it's never that clean. She told me that she had been in therapy for 15 years dealing with some different stuff, and had come through this stuff into a very wise state of being. But she basically had waited years to finally have that peace to call me.
Wow.
And then she was crying, and I said, I forgave you a long time ago on all these things, and believe me, I've got nothing to talk about in terms of not being, like whatever.
Like the damage you caused me
like
that's
whatever,
still here today.
Whatever, yeah, whatever you did, I've got.
She was really getting clean in herself.
Yes. And
that's dealing with her shit.
Yeah, that was dealing with her shit. And it's encouraging to see that from people going, because, I just kind of, in my mind, I went, well, I just wrote her off. I just said, yeah, I just have to chop that off. Because the way I used to deal with these situations when they didn't work out the way I wanted them to was I immediately went into a place where I would blame the other person and cut off the experience and numb myself and just I just have to get past this and then I'll be okay. Yeah. Never dealt with it at all.
Yeah.
Never talked to them about it. Never talked to them. Never said, this is how I'm feeling. Why did you do that? Or whatever.
Didn't talk to yourself either about it. Didn't process it.
No, I just tried to numb it down, blot it down, freeze it off, not think about it, suppress it.
That's what's no longer going to work.
And that was my pattern to various degrees much of my life. I mean, there's certain things I did, you take on the pain of a trial, or that's a big hit.
Yeah, if you lose something and the person lost a lot because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's, but you have
Real
to learn.
things happening.
You have to learn to immediately forgive yourself and keep forgiving yourself, forgive everybody else, and love everybody else. And do that, because it serves no one to beat yourself like that, right? That was a very hard lesson for me to learn, because that was I'm not saying my parents taught me that. My parents were great. They were nice Christian people, okay? And not abusive at all, but that whole system is very heavily oriented toward, there's basically a guilt watcher watching over you the whole time.
Control and possession.
Yeah, there they are, and you never can be good enough, not on any given day.
Correct, because you were born bad.
You were born bad, and so you're never going to be right. So that whole piece of that is a pretty big piece that I think we're talking about frequency change and love and light. And it's not just foo-foo language.
Yeah, if you think this is woo-woo, just check the science, my love. It is everywhere now. This is all being proven out, and millions of people are hearing the voices of other off-planet wisdom is what I call it, off-planet wisdom. It's coming down like rain, and we have access to everything we could want. And we can create anything we could want. So if anyone thinks this is woo-woo, well, that's your right. That's where you're at. It's fine. It's fine. I love and accept that. It's perfect. And I'll come back for you later.
Yeah. I like that image. That's a very helpful image.
Isn't it?
That
because
actually,
no one loses.
That
right?
actually feels good.
It's just a matter of time.
That actually feels good, because the win-lose proposition hurts me. Makes me want to cry.
I think that's because it's just not true.
I hope so. Because
that's so sweet. That's the victim triangle. It's not true.
Yeah.
It's not. And we were taught that you and I were trained in this. Someone's right, someone's wrong.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, every single trial, That's what they go, you're right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Read that, like, we're going to sum this up for you. Right, wrong.
You talked about time in a very interesting way. When you're young, a day one day is your whole life at first, right?
Right. First day is your whole life.
Right. So, and then every day thereafter, it becomes every day becomes a smaller fraction.
Interesting.
Okay. So it's a portion of your life as you get older, every day will seem much faster because now at 57 or 73, a day is a small fraction of what you've already lived. Also a small fraction of what you have left to live because it's going faster, right? This can create a feeling of panic around time. And it's happening to everybody simultaneously because everybody's getting older, in terms of Earth years, not necessarily.
Yeah.
So everyone's experiencing.
If you're here, you're in time.
Everyone is experiencing the speed up at the same time.
Yes.
So that's a shared experience, is the feeling of it's a speed up. So have you ever heard anybody say, well, time seems to really be going slower now?
Well, I say
You do.
that as everybody else is going to go faster, I'm planning to go slower, and I'm doing it.
Well, that's a good thing that you're able to step out.
I have stepped out a lot. I've stepped out quite a bit. My whole schedule is very beautiful. I almost never get into a car. I just walk places. I walk to the grocery, the credit union, the pool for swimming, the restaurant, the everything I need to do. I just don't participate in the fast world very much. As you have discovered, I pretty much look at email once a week. I look at my text messages in the morning, usually never again. You don't have to be in this frenetic psychology that everyone else is getting into. That's the different worlds. Those are the two worlds splitting. It's going to seem more panicky to a lot of people and more liberating to a lot of other people because I've never loved time, meaning that I really don't like having to be at a certain place at a certain time. I just wish we could just float around. Like, I'll be there when I get there. Of course, why are you worried about it? So I'm being liberated from the time myself, but other people are going to be more panicky.
I am experiencing a feeling of like, I just don't want to have to get up at 6 a.m. every morning and then get ready to go to this place at this time and do this and this. I'm resisting that. And
Awesome.
For a long time, that was my deal, right? I was like, yes, do this, right?
I am familiar with that lifestyle.
And I don't want to do that anymore. And I'm starting to feel that, right?
Beautiful. I haven't used an alarm clock since I stopped the law, I guess it was. If I have to be somewhere, I can set it. I know how to set it, but no, I haven't used an alarm clock in many, many years. So I think it's funny, like, you're an infinite light being, an immortal creator. Oh, the alarm went off. I have to get up. Damn it. I don't want to, but I have to.
Well, how can people find you?
Oh, thanks, Mark. You introduced me as River Del Llano, which is true. And I have a nickname, River Roaring. I used to actually roar a lot. And anyway, find me at riverroaring.com. Yeah, so please, invite everyone to come out to riverroaring.com. I've only done in-person work up till date. So I have a big group that meets every once in a while on a Friday evening, and it's $20. Sacred Sexuality Austin Empowerment Circle. We've been meeting for 13 or 14 years. And then I have a small group workshop that's very intimate and very life-changing and transforming. And I really warmly invite you to join us sometime for the weekend workshop. It's over here at my studio in Central Austin. And then I work privately with clients as well, one-on-one.
Okay.
And I have my first online course ever coming out this fall. I don't know when this will air, but if you hop on my email list, you'll be able to see when it comes out. And it will be sexual energy practices of 5 ancient wisdom traditions. And we're going to be covering sexual energy practices of the Tantra ancient tradition, the Taoist, Law of One, Yeshua and the Magdalens, and Toltec. It's very cool. And we're going to be learning about that and doing practices from each one of those traditions. So thanks for asking about that.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is hop on my email list at riverroaring.com.
All right. Perfect.
Thanks for asking.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.